Welcome to EGH British Cars, and today we're going to take a break from working on the TR2 to rebuilding the fuel pump in my wife's Herald. It should be the same as a Spitfire, and I believe a GT6 uses it as well. Anyway, so let's get started. So here is the fuel pump. It's on the left side of the engine. Pretty simple, a couple of bolts holding it to the block, and then the two fuel lines, we'll have to take those off as well. I don't foresee any big problems, but you never know. I'll start getting the fuel lines off. This is the output to the carburetors, which is the one that faces forward the most. There we go. That's that one out. And this is the feed line from the tank. Good. Those are both compression fittings with ferrules. Next, we'll get the two bolts. Okay, so it's actually an odd looking nut. Lockwise. That means you could change it with a screwdriver if you needed to. There's actually a Spitfire Mark II motor in this car. And voila! And of course, there's the gasket. And I believe the kit came with a new gasket, so we'll be using that. So, let's go put it on the bench and take it apart. So oddly enough, this top cover is 10 millimeters. There's the cover. There's the screen. There we go. So we'll need to clean that out. And just a little bit of debris in the bottom. Okay, we'll take these screws out. Alright, that's all 5 of those out. This should just come apart. With a bit of luck. No, it was just sticky. I used a slightly bigger lever. I caught it right here so I could push against that boss. Also, the book mentions looking to see what the orientation is when you put it back together. So in this pump that mounted this way on the engine, this is facing forward when that faces the engine. The diaphragm stuck to the upper piece, of course. There we go. There's the spring. Let's see if we can't free this diaphragm up. That really is glued down. It's amazing. There we go. And if you look, that's rubber right there. So that's what this is, the ethanol fuel eating this thing up. So you can see the top of the valve through here. And I gotta admit, I already knocked this loose, but I just put a drift there, tapped it lightly with the hammer. Out she came. So the other one is a different type of valve. I don't know what's up with that one, and I do not have another one in the list, but fortunately it's not leaking. So I'll replace this one and see how we go. I just dropped it in the hole. I'll just tap it at the edges. That seems to hold it. So this is the lower oil seal and the spring seat, which were in the bottom half, right down in this cavity right there. They just lifted out, and we do have new ones. So they just sit in there, and then I guess the oil seal's held in place and tight by the spring on the diaphragm. Right like that. So I swapped this pin over from the other one because this pin didn't fit this pump that well. I'm starting to think this may be an aftermarket, particularly where it's got metric fittings in it. But the diaphragms are the same, that's all it really counts. So I put this one in. This is perpendicular to that tab. And then we need the spring and the spring seat here. And there's the lower seal, it's the wrong half. There's my T-slot in the bottom. There we go. Alright. As you can see, that'll work just like that. And then this went that way. This one facing forward. We're going to need to so I just use the lever to pull the diaphragm down because it seems to be less ornery that way. A couple more in. Only just starting these, I'm not pulling them down tight yet. And now we can see if this is going to work. If you can hear that or not, but yep, definitely working. So that's good. All right, well, that's all nice and clean now. And notice that has a slight dimple up, so that goes up. It's just a snug fit over that center post. And we should have a new gasket here for it. There we go. New gasket. This is the top cover. And we know that that faces forward. Here's a little trick for you. I left this bolt just a little loose until I had this line in so that this has the optimum angle set on it. I didn't try to have to guess at it. And now we just snug it up. And then we put the plug wires back on. And it's 1, 3, 4, 2. There's the firing order on almost every 4-cylinder that I've ever run across. And there's the other one. Well, now we'll see if this will prime. You notice that these pumps had a priming lever. And also notice this isn't doing anything right now, and that's because the lever on the fuel pump is sitting on the high point of the cam, so making sure the car's in neutral, you just touch it over a little bit. I touched it over until I found somewhere where it hid, and if you look at that glass gas filter, you'll see the fuel is now pumping up into the carburetors. So this saves you a lot of cranking time. So I've probably pushed this pump 30-40 times now because this thing was empty. Carburetor bowls, both of them were dry. The fuel pump was dry. The lines were dry. So this car has not been started in months. Well, that's a little bit more like it. So this is a Spitfire Mark II motor. Has the Spitfire Mark II carburetors, SUs. This is a Chevy alternator, which is an internally regulated, which is an easy conversion because this car has a narrow belt anyway. This is all pretty much stock on this side with the exception of a spin-on oil filter. On this side you can see we actually have a header on it. Stock carburation, but they were, well, 15 years ago we bought new carburetors for it from what was Victoria British then. I guess they're owned by Moss now. And it has an exhaust system from Rimmers, which is stainless steel. This is really nice. It sounds really good. Let's see if we can hear it a little better. Nice even tone too. I don't know what it is, but the small Herald engines really sound good. This is not a 998 though. This is it's about a 1200 cc. I think it's 11 something. I don't remember. But it doesn't have a lot of horsepower. I think probably about 60. But it runs really well. It's been a nice car. I've driven a lot over the years. I commuted it for several years, about 50 miles a day. My wife commuted it for a year, about the same, 50 miles a day. The poor thing's been sitting out here. Because we're all retired now, we don't hardly drive at all. You can see, nice charging. It used to be with the generator. Like going to work on a cold, rainy, dark morning, you couldn't have the headlights, the windshield wipers, and the fan running. You had to have one of them shut off at all times. Of course, you could always turn the dash lights off and save a little bit, but it wasn't usually enough. Custom steering wheel, refinished dash, recovered dash crash pad. Had a whole new interior 20 years ago. It's still pretty nice. That's from Rimmers. Found this roof on eBay, still in the box, probably 20-30 years old, but I like it. I like the color. And it has, these are stock hubcaps. You know, get out of the sun so you can see them. But they're TR7 wheels, so they're a little bit lighter. So we have 185/70 13 tires on it, which are so much better than the 155 13s it came with. Anyway, let me get all this packed up. I should mention this car also has overdrive and Spitfire front disc brakes. There's third gear overdrive, fourth gear overdrive. This car has 410 rear axle ratio and 13-inch tires, so when we get it on the freeway, it used to really be spinning pretty fast. We do 65-70 miles an hour, so the overdrive really helped with that. Well, it's been a good little car over the years. It was actually bought in Pennsylvania and driven cross country late 60s, early 70s. So it's been a long ride with just a regular 4-speed, not overdrive. But it was a pretty new car. I'm sure it did all right. I got it from a couple up in Calistoga, I think. They'd had it for a long, long time. And they had painted it and added a part to paint it. And then before they got it back together, they had bought a house. So they threw it, quote unquote, back together, moved it to the new house, and there it sat for years. I think they said it was 13 years earlier that it had been painted. I bought it in, I think, 2000. And did quite a bit of work to it. Now, the paint was okay, but it only lasted a year or two. It was that early clear coat paint, and the clear coat just started peeling off of it. I suppose, you know, being in the barn and everything, it had been protected, but it still had aged. So being out in the weather, because I was using it as a commute car, did it in pretty quick. So I did that. We rebuilt the motor. I did buy a 3-rail all synchromesh transmission for it and fitted an overdrive to that. Got rid of the drum brakes in the front and put Spitfire disc brakes in, Mark II Spitfire. And it had a single downdraft Solex originally. Put the SUs on, and surprising, it revved better, it had more power, and it got better gas mileage. So I think they're 1.5 or 1.25 SUs is what they are, H4s. And we'll put the header and the good exhaust on it, because the original exhaust was tiny. I think it was 1.25 pipe. I suppose, you know, this is only a 1200cc motor, but it's like, wow, that's just too small. So we splurged and bought a header and stainless steel performance exhaust from Rimmers, which is very, very nice. We've got it on this car, we got it on the Vitesse as well. And I tell you, I really like it. I don't think it really made it any faster, but it sure looked a lot nicer in the back, and it sounds a lot better, and it makes me feel better that it doesn't have that tiny exhaust system on it. Just gotta love that overdrive. So we're doing just about 60. We don't have a tachometer in this car, but I would guess that that's probably 2,500, 2,800 RPMs. Just, you know, just comfortable. The problem is that I think it's got about 60 horsepower, so it doesn't have enough horsepower to really be a ratio that will let the engine spin forward, because every time you hit a hill, you'd have to downshift. So it's a good compromise. 410s in the overdrive. Now on the Vitesse, we put a Spitfire 1500 rear end in it, and that has 389 to 1 rear axle. And of course, that car's got plenty of power to push it up over a hill. But Jane put 30,000, almost 31,000 miles on this car she put on it. And I put an easy 20 on it, so I guess we put 50,000 or so miles on it over all the years. And it's been a good car. It's never left us stranded anywhere. It's funny, it's only got a 7.1 gallon tank. So it's tiny, but it'll get, if you don't drive too crazy, it gets about 30 miles to the gallon. It is a bit bumpy. It's trouble with a short wheelbase car. It's got all the original springs, so it's not that they're too stiff. I mean, they're well worn, but because of that, you know, good shocks all around, but they're just standard replacement shocks. They're not high performance shocks. Oh, it's got a anti-sway bar in the back too, which really helped this thing. You don't get the tuck under with the wheels, and it just really sort of evened the cornering out. And I've never Jane's autocrossed it, but she really just kind of motored it around the track. I've never autocrossed it, so I've never really driven it in anger. But I used to take a back road to work all the time, so I get to know the corners pretty well. And there's a couple of big hills that you didn't want to slow down on before you hit them, so going through the corners fast at the bottom of the hill was helpful. Love that overdrive. Now, we're coming back up on the house. So we fuel pumped it, I took it to the car wash, we gassed it up, checked the air in the tires. So I think we're in good stead all in all. Took it for a ride. Made sure everything was working. I think that's turned sharp. It's a 25-foot turning radius. So. It used to be a big selling point. They made a bunch of funny commercials where crooks would get away from the police by turning around in crazy little spots. Oh, the radio decided to work again. That's good. All right, so here it is, all nice and clean and shiny, with its winking little headlights, as Jane says. Probably should have done this out in the middle of the driveway, you would see it better, but here's the end of the stainless steel Rimmer's exhaust. I really like that. Sounds good, looks good. Need to close the door. There it is. So I hope you enjoyed our little ride in the Herald and seeing how to rebuild a simple fuel pump for one of those cars. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you next time.